We have a woman who is currently on trial who strangled her 3 young children, all under the age of 5. But the real question is this murder or postpartum psychosis?
Her trial of a Duxbury mother accused of killing her 3 young children is now underway in Plymouth Superior Court. Jury selection began today, and the case is expected to last several weeks.
Lindsay Clancy has pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder in the 2023 deaths of her children. WBZ's Christina Rex is at the courthouse where 5 jurors were seated today. And Christina, based on what happened today, it seems this could take a while.
Oh, absolutely, Courtney and Lisa. I actually heard multiple women tell the judge they didn't feel like they could be an impartial juror on this case because they're mothers, and they said it would just be too hard to listen to the testimony and the evidence. One woman actually left jury selection in tears.
The jury up.
And that marks the official start to Lindsay Clancy's triple murder trial as lawyers and the judge work to seat an 18-person jury in this disturbing case. Clancy's accused of deliberately killing her 3 children in January 2023 by strangling them. Her lawyer plans to argue she did so because of over-medication and postpartum psychosis. But he could be forced to do so without some expert witnesses after he added them to his witness list just this month.
Defense counsel is an experienced attorney who understands the rules, and by providing these names at this last minute, a week and a half before trial, was a strategic and intentional act to surprise us with these witnesses and not allow us to be prepared for them.
The judge excluded some defense experts for now, but says that could change. During day 1 of jury selection, over 100 people showed up to the courthouse for jury duty. Around 55 were questioned by the judge, and 5 were seated on the jury, 2 men and 3 women.
Wow. Okay, why wow? Well, I think if you're only seating 5 people out of 55, it's giving you an indication of how hard it is to find a juror that can listen to this case impartially.
The judge asked each prospective juror first about scheduling. Many people were excused because they could not commit to the 8 weeks expected for this case. They were also asked by the judge if they understand that Lindsay Clancy does not have to testify, if they can be fair and impartial, and if they can treat all witnesses the same, like police and lay witnesses. Several women were excused from the jury who spoke out loud about being a mother and how hard it would be to listen to the evidence.
That is going to touch a chord with many, many people. And that is going to make it harder, too, for somebody to sit through the evidence and hear some of these very gruesome and traumatic details about how these children died.
This is a tragic situation. Now, I don't know, because postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis is a real medical situation. But then proving that is what led to the strangulation of children, all under 5. It would be hard to listen to, and be hard to even think about letting her off. But it's a real situation that a lot of women go through, and a lot of women need help and need to seek counseling because of it. Let's keep going, though.
And the goal for this trial is to seat 18 jurors, meaning that 13 jurors still need to be found and seated. Ultimately, at the end of the day, just 12 people will deliberate whether Lindsay Clancy is guilty of these crimes. Jury selection is expected to continue through at least Wednesday of this week.
They said that people have to be there for 8 weeks. And I know they don't pay you a lot. Let's keep going, though. Let's get into this next video and see what else we can find out.
One of the most closely watched murder trials in Massachusetts is now underway. Jury selection began today in the trial of Lindsay Clancy.
Yeah, she's a Duxbury mother accused of killing her 3 young children in 2023. The night team's Nicole Mader was in the courtroom.
This morning, the courtroom was full of more than 120 potential jurors who will eventually become a jury of her peers as Lindsay Clancy faces trial for the alleged murder of her children. The Commonwealth is accusing Clancy of strangling her 3 children, who were 5 years, 3 years, and 8 months old, with exercise bands with deliberate premeditation. Prosecutors allege that she planned the killings, while defense argues she was legally insane because of severe postpartum mental illness. Today and tomorrow, the process of voir dire will continue. That's a fancy term for jury selection, screening each juror individually to ensure that they don't have any biases and that each one of them can evaluate only the facts and the law as it is presented in the courtroom during trial. The attorneys and the judge will ask each of the potential jurors questions and then either seat them or excuse them. Jurors also filled out a questionnaire that would help the judge and attorneys in that process. They were also given a witness list and asked to circle anyone that they knew. The judge hopes to seat a panel of 18 jurors, that's 12 jurors and 6 alternates. 5 jurors were seated today. Earlier this morning, the judge addressed all potential jurors and told them what their responsibilities will be if they are selected. He emphasized that the defendant is innocent until proven guilty and that the Commonwealth must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Clancy is criminally liable for those deaths. In Plymouth, Nicole Mader.
That's one of the hardest things. They have to prove without a reasonable doubt that she truly is criminally guilty. Not that she did it, but she is criminally guilty. That means that that she isn't insane at the time, because that's a big part of it. We just talked about a case recently where a mother ended up drowning her 18-month-old child because of COVID made her insane, and she was able to get a not guilty plea because of insanity. So it's a real thing. But the real question is, how do you know for sure? How do you know? Is it all based on the psychologists and the medical examiners and therapists? That's going to be the biggest part of this section or this trial. Let's get over into one more video just to wrap it all up before we get to the AI breakdown.
Jury selection underway in the high-profile trial of the Massachusetts mother accused of killing her 3 children back in 2023. Prosecutors say Lindsay Clancy used exercise bands to strangle her kids, 5, 3, and 8 months old, then jumped from a second-story window, leaving her paralyzed. Her defense is that severe postpartum psychosis drove her to those horrific acts.
Yeah, she might get away with it. She strangled them all and then jumped off the balcony. Yeah, they might consider her insane. Yeah, in the moment, at least. Let's keep going.
Criminal defense attorney and host of the Crime and Justice podcast, Donna Rotuno, joins me now. Donna, a terribly complicated and terribly tragic case. What would your defense strategy be going forward, beginning with jury selection?
Well, Todd, it is an awful case. I mean, my goodness, anytime you have the loss of 3 young lives, it's unbelievably tragic. However, in this case, we have to look at the history here of the mental illness. And Lindsay Clancy had a documented medical history. She went to doctors. She told doctors what her symptoms were. They put her on a cocktail of medication. These doctors did not speak to one another. They have a good defense here. Lindsay Clancy herself was a nurse. And as a nurse, even she, I think, was so out of her mind that she was not able to know what she should or shouldn't have been taking at the same time. Her husband had said just prior to this, they had gone to the doctor and said she was hearing voices. So this is a documented defense here. So she's in a position where they are going to be able to show this jury that she was dealing with some major mental health issues here. In terms of picking the jury, you want to pick jurors who can be fair. You have to take the emotion out of it here, because obviously this is a very emotional case. And if you think about the way those 3 lives were taken, it's awful. But you really have to look at whether or not her actions were intentional. I mean, Todd, she ends up jumping out of a window and ends up as paralyzed.
Yeah, it is so important to note that both the mom and the husband are suing the medical establishment, including those doctors, for exactly what you just said. And the lawsuit specifically says the following, quote, she recognized something was wrong with her. She sought medical treatment. She went to emergency rooms. She called crisis hotlines. She admitted herself to hospitals. She took the medication prescribed to her. She communicated her worsening symptoms to her providers. But to your point, Donna, defense is going to have an expert that says, look, they put her on different drugs depending upon who the doctor was and didn't communicate with each other, like you said. So with that in mind from the defense, how the heck does the prosecution go forward and establish her state of mind in trying to prove their case without appearing like they're trying to beat up on this woman?
Yeah, they're in a very tough position. And frankly, going at her with these 3 murder charges, these are the highest charges they can charge her with here. And I think they're asking a lot of this jury, given the fact that there is this documented history. What they're going to rely on, though, Todd, is they're going to say she planned this out. She told her husband to go get food. She waited until he left, that this was something that she, didn't want him around for. And so she thought enough to do those things and to take those steps. I don't think it's going to be enough, frankly. I do think that a jury is going to see that she had this documented history. They can prove that, and I think the experts are going to back her up. I mean, Todd, even her husband has forgiven her and is saying that he doesn't think that she did this in her right mind.
That is the realest thing that I want to talk about. The husband. How, as a husband, I don't know what I would be feeling in that moment. The woman you love, no matter if it was, of course, like postpartum depression is a real depression and is a real thing. We all understand that. But the man lost his children. It's going to take some time. You're going to have to get therapy yourself to try to, because if you truly want to stay supporting your wife, you're going to have to talk to somebody about this. Because that's a crazy situation. But it does sound like that they got a clear defense. I don't know how the prosecution's going to prove that she wanted to murder her children. Maybe if they find some search history or something like that pops up out of nowhere. But like they said, everything was documented, showing what she was going through, showing that nothing was changing. How are they going to convict her on this? I don't know, y'all. Let's get over into the AI breakdown just to see what else we can find out and see if we missed anything. So we got the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy began on Monday, July 20th, 2026 in Massachusetts. So the 36-year-old former labor and delivery nurse faces 3 counts of first-degree murder for the January 24th, 2023 strangulation death of her 3 young children. Cora, 5 years old, Dawson, 3 years old, and Claylan, 8 months. After killing, she attempted suicide by jumping from the second-story window, an action that left her permanently paralyzed from the waist down. She is attending the trial in a wheelchair. So, as we know, the jury is going through selectioning right now. As of Tuesday afternoon, July 21st, the court has seated 10 of the requested 18 jurors. So the judge stated that the full trial is projected to last 6 to 8 weeks once the jury is finalized. The combined witness list contains over 200 names, which includes medical professionals, investigators, family members, and notably her husband is listed as a witness for both the prosecution and the defense. So the core criminal trial does not dispute whether she committed the act, but centers entirely on her mental state. So the defense, as we know, talked about postpartum psychosis and she was heavily over-medicated with a revolving cocktail of psychiatric drugs. According to the civil filings, Clancy claimed that she was experiencing severe auto hallucinations and hearing voices commanding her to kill her children and herself. So the prosecution, state prosecutors argue that the killings were deliberately planned and intentional. The point to the evidence showing that Clancy calculated how long it would take her husband to complete errands that evening, intentionally sending him out to buy takeout food and pharmacy and the pharmacy items to ensure she would be left completely alone with the children. If that's the only thing the prosecution got, I don't know how they're going to even manage. But let's keep going. So just before the trial started, prosecutors filed a notice to drop the 3 separate counts of strangulation, noted that these charges were redundant, as they legally surmised by a primary murder charge. So on the opening day, the judge granted a motion from the prosecution to exclude 4 experts originally put forward by the defense. The defense filed a brief seeking to limit the number of first responder testifying about the crime scene, arguing that the repetitive testimony would be irreparably that it would affect the jury too much. Y'all know I can't talk sometimes. So separate from the criminal proceedings, both Lindsay and Patrick have filed civil lawsuits in early 2026 against the medical providers. The lawsuit allegedly states that it was a catastrophic failure by the doctors to properly diagnose, monitor, and treat her severe postpartum psychiatric condition. Patrick has publicly stated that he forgives his wife, maintaining that her actions were driven entirely by her rapid worsening mental condition. Now, here's a question. I mean, this might be an obvious question, but why did he leave her alone with the children? Is it just if she was spiraling that bad? I would like to know why he thought it was okay to leave her alone with the children. Maybe she wasn't at that level where she felt like she would do something dangerous, but if she's spiraling, hearing voices, and the voices actually told her to kill her children, and we knew about this, why would you leave her alone with the children in the first place? But no matter how you look at this, it's a tragic situation. We have 3 children who lost their lives. I mean, just thinking about the children, I believe normal people would want someone to be held responsible. But the real question is it the medical professionals who are responsible for this? Is it her? Or is it just a tragic, I don't know if you can call this accident, but this is just a tragic situation. Let me know your thoughts on that situation, y'all. Let me know how you feel about it. Do you think that she'll be able to get away with this? Or maybe not get away with this is the right word, but do you think that her defense is sound? This is the main thing. It's a tragic situation, but we will have to keep up with this to see exactly what happens and if she's able to beat the case. Tragic situation. Remember, y'all, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification button.